Whoops, sleep mode.
This is amazing. Your father grabbed at the age of 10.
Great.
Yeah.
Not that old, actually. That way waiting, so just quickly tell me the number and I'll be
Don't worry, there's a small community. It will wait.
Sorry, what? No, I won't answer. Shall we begin?
Shabbat Shalom to all of you at home. Shabbat Shalom to our modest community here this morning inside the sanctuary. Well, I don't know whether you're all modest, but we are modest as numbers here. I'm going to ask us to stand, if you can, ready for Matovu. If you're at home, ready to transform your kitchen, your living room, wherever you are, into the synagogue space that we are sharing together to be this community this morning. We are praying from service number 4, Sidor Lev Chadash, page 122. Let us begin with Matovu.
Israel, מה טוב, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל, ואני ברוב חסדך, אבוא ביתך, אשתך ולך על קודשך, ויראתך, מה טוב, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל, אדוני אהבתי, ואום ביתך, ומקום משכן כבודך, משכן כבודך, ואני אשתחווה, ואפרח לפני אדוני, עוזי, מה טוב, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל, ואני תפילתי לך, אדוני את רצון, אלוהים ברוב חסדך, אלוהים ברוב חסדך, ענני באמת אישך, מה טוב, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל, משכנותיך ישראל.
Our congregation. Eternal God, we come before you surrounded by members of our community. With them we share our happiness and it becomes greater, our troubles and they become smaller. Meaning of life. Let us not separate ourselves from the true heart to welcome those who need us and to admit your presence into our daily life. Let's say together, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozeh Yisrael bikvorah. We should revere God in all that we do, privately as well as publicly, acknowledge the truth and speak it in our hearts. Ribon kol ha'olamim, lo al tzidkotenu anachnu mapilim tachanunenu lefanecha, ki al rachamecha harabim. Ma tzidkenu, ma kochenu, ma govorotenu, ma noma lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu, halo kol hagiborim ka'ayin lefanecha. Sovereign of all worlds, we lay our supplications before you, relying not on our merit, but on your abundant mercy. For what are we? What is our life? What is our piety? What our goodness? What our strength? What can we say in your presence, eternal God? Are not the mightiest of us as nothing before you, the famous as though they'd never lived, the learned as if they had no knowledge, the wise as if without understanding? For most of what we do is futile, and our life on earth is but a span. Our superiority over other animals amounts to little, for all is vanity. Together. Nevertheless, we are your people,
children of your covenant, and called to your service. Therefore, it is right that we should thank and praise you, to proclaim your holiness, and daily say before you, Ashreinu, Ashreinu, Matov, Matov, Matov Le'Eloheinu, Ashreinu, Ashreinu, Matov, Matov, Matov Le'Eloheinu, Manayim, Manayim, Manayim Goraleinu, Manayim, Manayim, Manayim Goraleinu, Manayim, Manayim, Manayim Goraleinu, Manayim, Manayim, Manayim Goraleinu, Umayafa, 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 Yerushalmeinu, Ashreinu, Umayafa, 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 Yerushalmeinu, Ashreinu.
Just beautiful. Bottom of page 124. Baruch she'amah v'haya ha'olam baruchu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam. Hamchulal b'fi amo meshubach umfa'a b'shon chasidav v'avadav. Bishvachot uvizmarot. Nagadelcha v'namlichecha. Malkeinu yachid chei ha'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai melech mechulal b'tishbachot. So one of the medieval piyutim about our relationship with God. At dawn and dusk I seek you, reach out and look to you. With soul athirst I yearn for you, I am a beggar at your door. The galaxies cannot contain you, yet you dwell in my inmost being, I hold your glory in my heart. My love for you exceeds my speech, so I will praise your name, Eternal One, as long as your breath of life remains within me. Baruch Adonai leolam, amen ve'amen. Baruch Adonai Elohim Elohei Yisrael, oseh niflaot levado, uvaruch Shem kovodo leolam v'yemaleh chovodo, et kol haaretz. Amen ve'amen.
Nishmat kol chai, tevarech et shimcha, Adonai Eloheinu, beruach kol basar, tefaer utromenu.
זכרך מלכנו תמיד מן העולם ועד העולם אתה
So last night I shared a poem by Mary Oliver, Wild Geese. Why? Because of the theme of Lech Lecha, this week's portion, that calls us to imagine moving, making choices, moving in our lives, sometimes having the courage to do something that we had not expected, sometimes it working out, sometimes it not working out, but ultimately having faith in ourselves. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese high in the clean blue air are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. We turn to page 128, taking that sense of choice and moving forward in our lives as we stand for the Yishtabach.
ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ כי לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו שיר ושבחה, הלל וזמרה, ברכות והודאות, מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בשירי זמרה.
Page 135 for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch et Adonai Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach leolam vaed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Let's sit down as we go into the blessings before the Shema. Yotzei or vorei choshech, oseh shalom, uvorei et hakol. Hame'ir la'aretz u'ladarim aleha barachamim. Uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai. Kulam b'chochma asita malach ha'aretz kinyanecha. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha. V'al morei or she'asita. Yefarucha Selah. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer Hamorot. And together, great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching. Make us faithful to your commandments and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher bi'amo Yisrael, bi'ahava. If you're able, stand for Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Le'olam Va'ed.
Vahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavecha, uv'chol nafshecha, uv'chol mo'adecha. V'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele, asher anochi matzavacha hayom al levavecha. V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, uv'leftecha v'derech, uv'kashoppacha uv'kumecha. Ukashatam la'ot al yadecha, v'hayu l'totafot beinenecha, ukatavtam al muzot beitecha, uvisharecha.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
אמת ויציב וישר וקיים וטוב ויפה הדבר הזה עלינו לעולם ועד. אמת שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, מלכנו מלך אבותינו, יוצרנו צור ישועתנו, פודנו ומצילנו מעולם הוא שמך, אין אלוהים זולתך. אמת אתה הוא ראשון ואתה הוא אחרון, ומבלעדיך אין לנו מושיע, ממצרים גלתנו, אדוני אלוהינו, ומבית עבדים פדיתנו. משה ומרים ובני ישראל לך ענו שירה בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא.
שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך על שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו.
אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל, גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Let's stand for the tefillah hour on page 140.
Adonai sefatai tifkach uki agid tehilatecha. Adonai sefatai tifkach uki agid tehilatecha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, u'Mevi Gula Lifnei V'nehem, Lama'an Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Hoseh u'Moshiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Machaye Metim atah Rav LaHoshia, Mashiv HaRuach u'Morid HaGeshem, Mazriach HaShemesh u'Morid HaTal.
Mechalkel Chaim b'chesed, Mechayeh Metim b'rachamim rabim, Somech noflim rofeh cholim, Umatir hasurim, Umakayem emunato b'shenei afar. Ipamocha bal gevorot u'midom elai, Melech memit u'machayeh u'matzliach Yeshua.
ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה המתים. נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, Meloch ol haaretz kevodo.
כבודו מלא עולם.
Baruch kevod Adonai mimchomo.
ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך.
Imloch Adonai leolam, Elohai Tzion, V'dov Adon, Hallelujah. V'dov Adon, V'dov Adon, V'dov Adon, Nagid vod lecha, Ulenetzach netzakim, Ulenetzach netzakim, Kedushatcha nakdish, L'dov Adon, L'dov Adon, L'dov Adon, Nagid vod lecha, Ulenetzach netzakim, Ulenetzach netzakim, Kedushatcha nakdish. B'shemcha Eloheinu, mipil lo yamush leolam va'ed, ki el melech gadol, ki el melech gadol, hakadosh baruch hu. L'dov Adon, L'dov Adon, L'dov Adon, nagid god lecha, ulenetzach netzakim, ulenetzach netzakim, kedushatcha nakdish.
ברוך אתה אדוני, Ha'el HaKadosh. Let's sit down as we mark Shabbat with Yismachu.
Yismachu b'malachutacha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismachu b'malachutacha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Mekadashei Shvi Shabbat, Kulam Yisbu V'yitangu Mituvech Shabbat. Yismachu b'malachutacha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismachu b'malachutacha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. V'hashvi'i ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat, Kemgat yamim, oto karata Shabbat. Yismachu b'malachutacha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismachu b'malachutacha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Zecher l'maseh b'reishit Shabbat. Zecher l'maseh b'reishit Shabbat. Yismachu b'malachutacha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismachu b'malachutacha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat.
Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments, make us loyal to your teaching, satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Eternal One, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu b'yamcha Yisrael, u'tefilatam b'ahava tekabel, u'tehi ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai she'otecha levadecha b'yera na'avod. Modim anachnu lach, she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu le'olam va'ed. Tzur hayenu magen yishenu, ata hu ledovado. Nodeh lecha nsapeh tehilatecha, al hayenu hamsurim biyadecha, v'al nishmotenu hapkodot lach, v'al nisecha shebachol yom imanu, v'al niflotecha v'tovotecha, shebachol eit erev v'voker v'tzoharayim. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, u'lacha na'eh lohodot.
Shalom, Tova, Uvracha, Sim Shalom, Tova, Uvracha, Sim Shalom. Sim shalom, tova uvracha. חסד, חן לחסד ברחמים. חן לחסד, חן לחסד ברחמים, ברחמים. שים שלום, טובה וברכה. שים שלום, טובה וברכה. עלינו ועל כל ישראל, עלינו ועל כל ישראל, עמך. שים שלום, טובה וברכה. שים שלום, טובה וברכה.
Baruch atah Adonai oseh hashalom. Let's take a few moments for silent prayer and reflection.
Ratzon irevi, v'hegion libi lefanecha. Adonai turi v'goali, Adonai turi v'goali, l'ratzon irevi, v'hegion libi lefanecha. Adonai turi v'goali, Adonai turi v'goali. Say shalom b'mama, v'yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol b'nei Adam. Say shalom b'mama, v'yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
Beautiful, such great participation, and I'm sorry you at home, we can't hear you singing along with us. We turn now to Kriyat Torah, the heart of our Shabbat morning service. I always am reminded that, of course, in medieval communities, Torah was also read, and many Orthodox communities still today, on a Monday and Thursday morning, a leftover to the time that people gathered, market day, that sense that Torah, one could have 3 opportunities to hear Torah. So now for us, we're at the top of page 481.
אין כמוך ואלוהים אדוני ואין כמעשיך מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך Adonai Malach, Adonai Imloch, Leolam Vaed, Adonai Os Le'amo Yitain, Adonai Yevarech et Amo Vashalom.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlul Adonai iti onoromama shomo yachdav.
Lecha Adonai, Hagdula v'Hagvura. בשמיים ובארץ לך אדוני הממלכה לך מתנשא לכל ראש.
Just so we don't get behind me, we'll leave that here. I'm going to build that on the other side. All I can see is how beautiful our silverware, our rimonim look, because Barbara Schulman, together with a team, came and I think she called it silver surfed, but cleaned all our silver on Monday, and it really looks wonderful. You okay to bring it over, Alan? So let's sit down. So we are in Bereshit, of course, the book of Bereshit. We are at the portion of Lech Lecha, that rather wonderful portion when Abraham, well, Avram that he was, and his wife Sarai get called to leave all that is familiar, all that feels like home, their father's house, where they live, and move to a place that they know not, that will be totally new. And as you can imagine, this can be understood and extrapolated in so many ways, as I spoke about refugee, migration in our email this week, thinking also about us in our own lives, and when we have the courage to make new steps into the unknown. It is the most beautiful way that a portion can begin, and seems to be as prescient now when we read it as it might have been for this first couple, known of course as the first Israelite Hebrew couple. Because we are on the 3-year triennial cycle of reading, we are reading the last portion now. We moved into that after Simchat Torah, so we're on the 3rd reading, and I like, unless there's a really good reason, to stick to that even if there are some challenges or we miss out. And so this morning we're not reading the beginning of Lech Lecha. We are reading a rather interesting portion at the end, which I'm going to say something about in a moment. But I think just for us to have the sense of Lech Lecha, and whether you have a Chumash in front of you and you see those words, Dean is going to offer for us the words and melody of that blessing put together by Debbie Friedman, literally from that first line, Lech Lecha, go to a land that I will show you. You okay to do it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Place you do not know, Lekila. On your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing, and you shall be a blessing, and you shall be a blessing. And I shall make your name great. Lech Lecha, and all shall praise your name. Lekila, to a land that I will show you. Lesimchat chayim, lesimchat chayim, lesimchat chayim, lekila. And you shall be a blessing, and you shall be a blessing, and you shall be a blessing, lekila.
So beautiful. Thank you, Dean. So the piece that we are reading from is from chapter 17, the very last portion of Lech Lecha, which is the portion that discusses circumcision. And I think it is a really fascinating portion for us to wrestle over as a liberal community, and what the idea of the sign of the covenant. We've only had one covenant thus far. Noah is told that the rainbow will symbolize the covenant, the Brit to humanity. But here we get a second covenant that is given to Abraham, but Avram at this stage, before his name gets changed, it's about to be. And he is told that the sign of the covenant will be the sign of circumcision. This is the very first place, and it is the most detailed place that we hear about circumcision. And I think circumcision really, for us as contemporary Jews, is an issue, as you can imagine, that divides and separates the different denominations of Judaism in a really fascinating way. Over, probably 23, 24 years ago, when I was studying at Liobek College, and so fortunate to have Rabbi John Rayner, Zichrono Livracha, as my teacher, I remember writing a paper for him and studying with him on Brit Milah. And despite all the radical changes that liberal Judaism had made since 1902 and the beginning of our lives, of challenging, of wrestling, of curtailing, of saying no to much of the tradition that no longer made sense and carried meaning, John Rayner still said to me he could find no reason, no emotional reason to distance himself from Brit Milah, and it influenced me hugely that John Rayner, he of the towering intellect and what he brought in that logical, academic way of studying Judaism, still understood that strong link to. And so that was maybe 23, 24 years ago. And I think liberal Judaism has made, as has Reform, has made some changes about being more understanding for adult proselytes, becoming Jewish and not necessarily calling on for Brit Milah, understanding when families choose not to use the sign of the covenant in male genitalia for their babies as a sign of celebrating their Jewishness. But we hear, of course, the words that have permeated tradition, that the male child who is not circumcised will be cut off from his people. And for us to make sense of that, and I think it's really important that we continue the conversation in 2021. We have the Association of Progressive Moalim who feel for Reform and Liberal Judaism that they need more support, that they need our synagogues to be encouraging doctors within our synagogues to stand up and to want to train to be Moalim, that we want to hold this within our tradition and yet afford the choice that there could be. I am reminded, Hertz in his inimitable way often finds such extraordinary nuances from the Torah text. And Hertz reminds us that even an excommunicated semi-apostate like Benedict Baruch Spinoza declared, "Such great importance do I attach to the sign of the covenant, to circumcision, that I am persuaded it is sufficient by itself to maintain the separate existence of the nation forever." So I encourage you to consider, to talk today at home and think about where circumcision is for us in the progressive world. I've taken the liberty to speaking a little bit more now because some of you know I have to leave the service a little bit early to take our Kabbalat Torah class to Nottingham for the weekend. So I just wanted to really allow us a moment to connect with this extraordinary idea that still has meaning for us today. I think I need the yad, and while you pass me the yad, I get to call up, thank you, Richard, Ya'amod, Herzl Chaim ben Avram, Vashira, Levarech et HaTorah.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai hamavorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamavorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Vayihi Avram ben Tishaim Shana v'Tesha Shanim v'Yereh Adonai el Avram v'Yome elav Ani el Shaddai Hithalech lifanai v'Haya Tamim v'Etnei Briti v'Eni uvenecha v'Arbe otacha במוד מאוד, ויפול אברהם על פניו, וידבר אותו אלוהים לאמור, אני הנה בריתי איתך, והיית לאב המון גויים, ולא יקרא עוד את שמך אברהם, והיה שמך אברהם, כי אב המון גויים נתתיך, והפריתי אותך במאוד מאוד, ונתתיך לגויים, ומלכים ממך יצאו, והקימותי את בריתי ביני וביניך, ובין זרעך אחריך לדורותם, לברית עולם להיות לך לאלוהים, ולזרעך אחריך. ונתתי לך וזרעך אחריך את ארץ מגוריך, את כל ארץ כנען לאחוזת עולם, והייתי להם לאלוהים. ויאמר אלוהים אל אברהם, ואתה את בריתי תשמור אותה, וזרעך אחריך לדורותם. זאת בריתי אשר תשמרו ביני וביניכם, ובין זרעך אחריך, הימול לכם כל זכר, ולמדתם את בשר עורלתכם, והיה לאות ברית בני ובניכם, ובין 8 ימים ימול לכם כל זכר לדורותיכם, יליד בית ומקנת כסף מכל בן נכה, אשר לא מזרעך הוא. הימול ימול יליד ביתך ומקנת כספך, והיית בריתי. I have to remember the vowels. בבשרכם, thank you, לברית עולם, וארול זכר אשר לא ימול את בשר עורלתו, ונכרתה הנפש ההוא מאימך, את בריתי הפר. So it was that Avram was 99 years of age, and God appeared to Avram and said to him, I am El Shaddai, one of the names of God. Interestingly, the name for God that is written on the back of the Shema that's rolled up inside the mezuzah. I am El Shaddai, and I want you to walk before me and to be blameless, and I will give you my covenant between me and between you, and I will surely multiply you and make you very prosperous indeed. And Abraham fell on his face, and God spoke to him, saying, Behold, as for me, I am going to give my covenant to you, and you are going to be the father of many nations. And you will no longer be called by the name of Avram. Rather, your name shall be Avraham, which is an extra hey inside the word. And why are we told that Avram gets that extra hey? It's so interesting, your father was Avram. That gets the extra hey, because you are going to be the father of many nations. And I am going to give to you and allow you to multiply and prosper greatly. And I will give this to you to be father of many nations, and kings will come forth from you. And I will establish with you today my covenant between me and between you and between your offspring, your seed that comes after you for all generations. It shall be a covenant forever. It shall be for you, and I will be your God for you and the seed that comes after you. And I will give to you and your seed after you the land that you dwell in, the whole of the land of Canaan, and it shall be for you a legacy or a holding or you shall own it forever. And I shall be for you your God. I shall be God for you. And God spoke to Abraham and says, as for me, I am asking you to keep this covenant, you and all your seed and progeny that comes after you for all generations. This shall be my covenant that you shall keep between me and between all of you, and between all of your seed that comes after you. You shall circumcise for yourself every male child amongst you. You shall circumcise them. You shall circumcise the skin of your foreskins, and it shall be for you a sign of the covenant between me and between you. When a child is 8 days old, you shall circumcise that child, every male child in your generations, the ones that are literally born into your homes. And this is so interesting because it means the whole community was party to this. And the ones that are bought literally by money from any other tribes that come and live amongst you. And you shall circumcise all of those that are born into your homes, that are brought by money, and it shall be my covenant literally on your flesh. It shall be my covenant forever. And any male who is uncircumcised, who is still with foreskin, who does not circumcise their own flesh of their foreskin, shall be cut out, shall be excommunicated from the community. Literally, their soul is excluded from their people because they have ignored or willfully ignored my covenant.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Misha Baruch for you, Richard, for all that you have achieved leading up from the turn of the new year. I'm so aware of everything that you have done since 5782 came into being for us. A new job, new challenges with your prayer leading in the community as you watch Megan and your children take on new challenges. We really wish you the best for all the works of your hands, for all that you do for the remaining of this year. And let us all say, Amen. So I'm going to ask you to stand as we raise the scroll and really consider how we in Judaism now take it upon ourselves that the notion that a male who is not circumcised is not excluded from the community. I have many conversations with families who ask me just this, and how we hold the two ideas that Jewish identity or being part of a community is taken on, if you choose Judaism, is passed down if you receive it from your parents, but how we make sense of this small line in Torah that has had such repercussions for generations. I'm going to move away and let Alan raise the scroll.
Baruch Shel Natan Torah Torah. Baruch Shel Natan Torah Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtakavru behar kodesh. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtakavru behar kodesh. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtakavru behar kodesh. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtakavru behar kodesh.
So let's sit down as we go to the Haftarah. The Haftarah chosen more, it seemed kind of seemed good to choose this Haftarah, which was slightly going off-piste, to be reminded of Jeremiah's call to prophecy. We're called to read Jeremiah, Isaiah a great deal. Jeremiah, that hugely charismatic prophet that saw the Israelites through the destruction of the first temple into exile in Babylon. Probably his words were so well recorded because he had a secretary, Baruch, incredibly emotional in his visions and in his chastising of the people, but he nonetheless loves the people of Israel greatly and talks a great deal about redemption and return. But here we have that taste of him being called to do something that he didn't want to do. Michael, I'm delighted to call on you to read Haftarah.
Thank you. I think I'm here as a stand-in in my family. We like to celebrate. We like to celebrate in the synagogue the birthdays and anniversaries. So in my family, in the last week, we've had 5 birthdays, and next week is an anniversary. None of which are mine, but the others couldn't be here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bacha b'nviim tovim. v'divreihem v'nemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher b'Torah, uv'Moshe avdo, uv'Yisrael amo, uv'nevi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. The words of Jeremiah, son of Hilkiah, one of the priests at Anathoth in the territory of Benjamin. The word of the Eternal came to him in the 13th year of the reign of Josiah, son of Ammon, king of Judah. And through the reign of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Judah, down to the 5th month of the 11th year of Zedekiah, son of Josiah, king of Judah, when the people of Jerusalem went into exile. The word of the Eternal came to me, saying, Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. Alas, sovereign, I said, I do not know how to speak. I am too young. But the Eternal said to me, Do not say, I am too young. You must go to everyone I send you to and say whatever I command you. Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you and will rescue you, declares the Eternal. Then the Eternal reached out a hand and touched my mouth and said to me, I have put my words in your mouth. See, today I appoint you over the nations and kingdoms to uproot and tear down, to destroy and overthrow, to build and to plant. The word of the Eternal came to me. What do you see, Jeremiah? I see the branches of an almond tree, I replied. Then the Eternal said to me, You have seen well, for I am watching over my word to perform it. We praise you, Eternal One, our God, sovereign of the universe. You have been our source of strength and righteousness throughout the ages, the faithful God whose word is deed, whose every word is true and just. For the Torah, for the privilege of worship, for the prophets, and for this Sabbath day, which you, Eternal God, have given us for holiness and rest, for honor and beauty, for all these we offer thanks. May all the living come to praise your name forever. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Michael. We're going to stand for the community prayers, and before I slip out, I'm so delighted, Brenda, that you're coming to read the community prayers. I'm going to leave the scroll with Alan, and if you come up and use this microphone, wonderful.
Eternal God, we ask your blessing on our Queen, Elizabeth, and all the royal family, as well as those who govern our country. Guide them and all who govern with a spirit of wisdom and compassion, so that they care for the citizen and the stranger and bring benefit to all the inhabitants of our land and the world. Bless all our brothers and sisters in the house of Israel. Bless our congregation and all its members. Be with those who seek your presence and all who are in need of healing, spiritual or physical. Let them know that you are near to comfort and sustain them. May peace exist in the state of Israel soon and in our time. May you, eternal God, grant blessing to her, established as an age-old dream and home to the oppressed. May its leaders and citizens be inspired with a faithfulness to the aims of its founders, and may the country be imbued with the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice always. May this Shabbat renew our energy to build and sustain a better world and to deepen our gratitude of so much that surrounds us. And let us say, Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Brenda. It was beautifully read. So we prepare to put the scrolls away, and I will pass to Dean now as we open the ark, and I will slip off.
Yahallelu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado. Hodo al eretz v'shamayim, v'yarem keren le'amo, te'ila l'kol chasidav, livnei Yisrael, am kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Behold, a good doctrine has been given you. Do not forsake it. It is a tree of life to those who hold it fast, and all who cling to it find happiness. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. We will be pleased to hear that I won't be giving a sermon. So, please remain standing. Did you want a sermon, David? No? Let's go to the Elenu on page 520. Aleinu leshabeach Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, אשר שם חלקנו ליגד את שמו, וגורלנו להמליך מלכותו. אין עוד, 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 ואנחנו קוראים משתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו, אין עוד, 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 אין עוד,
Eloheinu efes ulato, kakatu v'torato, ve'yadata hayom ve'hashivota, el levavecha, ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim, bashamayim mimahal, ve'al ha'aretz mitachat Einor, 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 Einor.
And it has been said, the eternal God shall rule all over the earth. On that day, the eternal God shall be one, and be known to be one. We now turn to Kaddish, and we remember the yahrzeits that fall this week, this coming week, in the community. We remember Izzy Benjamin, friend of Dalma Loie Aranibar, Tilly Benning, mother of Gillian J, Martin Fox, husband of Loretta Fox, Vera Karstadt, mother of Philip Karstadt, Jack Silverman, father of Anita Friedman, Ronald Sulkin, father of Elizabeth Sulkin, and Dina Kafka, mother of Barry Kafka, as we say the Kaddish together on page 524. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, ve'omar divra kirutei v'yamlik malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarak le'olam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithada v'yitale v'yithalal shemei d'kudesha b'richu, le'ela min kor birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma ve'imru amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shamaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol b'nei Adam, ve'imru amen. Do we have announcements? Yes? Hi, Tamara. Shabbat Shalom. Please be seated.
Good morning, everybody, whether you're here in the synagogue building or at home watching on Zoom or on Facebook. Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to Finchley Progressive. Good Shabbos. I've got a few brief community announcements this morning. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of the volunteers and staff who make our services possible. I've actually been forbidden to name them all because they tell me it takes too long, but they know who they are, so thank you to you all, and of course to Rabbi Rebecca, who's gone off already with our KT group to Nottingham, and we wish them a very happy trip. Thank you to everyone who participated in the service, to Alan and to Graham, to Richard and to Michael and to Brenda. Thank you for your participation. And happy birthday, it sounds like, to the entire Lassman clan. Happy birthday and happy anniversary to the extended Lassman clan. So this week, tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock in Cafe Ivrea, Chris Nash is going to be leading a discussion on the subject of should an Egypt Day be added to the Jewish calendar. Our regular activities continue as usual this week. You can see them all in the weekly email. On Wednesday, October the 20th, there's a refugee welcome rally happening in Parliament Square from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. And on this day, when we've been reading about that occasion on which someone had to get up and go to a land they didn't know and ended up in a land of milk and honey, we think about what it's like for people to come here to the UK to a hostile environment. And at a point where more than ever we're so aware right now of how important it is for our country and our government to stand up for the rights of refugees. The Nationality and Borders Bill is even now progressing through Parliament and towards becoming law. So I invite everyone in the congregation to come and join us to stand up for the rights of refugees at the rally in Parliament Square, and an LJ group will be meeting at 4 o'clock, so just half an hour before it begins, at the Millicent Fawcett statue. So we look forward to seeing you there. Delving into Judaism is meeting at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, and their topic, which is part 2 of a discussion, is God compulsory? So that might be of interest to many of us. Looking a bit further ahead, on Friday the 22nd, after our Friday night service, there's going to be a community Friday night dinner, and if you'd like to come to that, please contact the office to sign up. And we've organised CST training for our security volunteers, and that will be from 6:30 to 8 on Monday, November the 8th. So I know so many of you help to keep our synagogue safe by being a part of that rota. Please put that date in your diaries. And finally, another thought on refugees. We are still collecting for so many of the Afghan refugees who arrived here with only their summer clothes. We're collecting coats and winter jackets here at the synagogue. You can drop them off at the building at any time. And of course, still very much looking for all of those people who were brought here when Kabul was evacuated and are now in bridging hotel accommodation. They will not leave those hotels until local authorities find housing for them. And that means that what we really need to be doing is finding, if we possibly can, landlords who might have 2 or 3 bedroom properties available to rent at a local authority housing rate. So if you have any thoughts at all about someone who might be in a position to make housing available for a refugee family, particularly in Barnet, please do let us know. That's it for today. Thank you very much, everybody. I wish you Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, thank you. And good Shabbos, yes. Okay, we will be... We'll be concluding the service with Adon Olam. Surprise, surprise. But the tune might be a little bit of a surprise because I don't think, to my knowledge, we've ever done this tune here. And there's no significance to it, it's just that, you know, I always like to do different tunes. Adon Olam Hashem Alav B'terem kol Yitzir Nivra Mi'ed Nasa V'Petovo Azai Melech Shemo please join us for Kaddish. Kiddush. Sorry, we've had Kaddish, haven't we? Please stand if you're able. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et haaretz Uvayom hashvi shavat vayinafash Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei peri hagafen. Oh, fresh out the oven. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Yes. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Good Shabbos.
Hold on. Shabbat shalom to everybody on Facebook and YouTube and